Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. The Uniform State Labor Standards Act would override local government's authority to set labor standards like paid sick time and minimum wage. The bill has been making its way through the House and the Senate this week. Here's a look at some recent testimony from the Senate Jobs and Economic Growth Committee.
To set a standard at a city level, which creates more confusion, creates more of a burden onto my daily tasks that we already have in running a restaurant. I'm here to serve and create a customer experience at the store level.
I really do not take lightly a step to restrict cities and ways to improve local communities. However, there is a significant potential that our cities will inadvertently create a bad business environment that will only ultimately harm the residents they seek to protect.
When we elect our city council members, we have the most intimate relationship with them of all elected officials, and that's where our voice begins. To have our voice then be stifled by having those city elected officials' policies be rendered invalid is a direct affront to us.
So currently I am homeless and have nowhere to go with my children. I'm in a hotel as of right now, and a $15 minimum wage and paid sick and safe time would help lots of families in North Minneapolis like me.
Now joining me in the studio is the author of the Senate bill, Senator Jeremy Miller. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
This is a controversial bill with passionate opposition from citizens of St. Paul and Minneapolis in particular, who have recently passed their own local laws pertaining to labor issues. So why is this bill necessary?
So what I'll say is, yes, there are folks that have feelings about this, passionate on both sides of the issue. I believe this is an incredibly important piece of legislation, especially for small businesses. And here's why. The state of Minnesota has 853 cities in 87 counties throughout the state. As you can imagine, a patchwork of inconsistent rules and regulations related to wages, benefits, and scheduling can be extremely confusing and a huge burden for businesses, especially small businesses. And rather than seeing companies buried with additional rules and regulations, I'd really like to see our companies focused on growing opportunities for employees by growing their business and looking at different ways to possibly expand or invest in their communities, and having fair and consistent labor standards consistent throughout the state is the best way to accomplish that.
Urban areas do have more diverse populations than some of the outstate areas, and considering that Minnesota already has a problem with racial economic disparities, isn't it possible that this patchwork of labor laws could help address that?
I think the opposite. I think the patchwork would actually hurt this situation. You look at wages throughout the country, according to national data, they're on the rise quicker than they have been in 8 years. The unemployment rate in the state of Minnesota is 3.9%, almost 1 full percentage point lower than the national average. So obviously what we're doing here in the state of Minnesota is working. I looked at the newspaper just last night. There were 2 full pages of job opportunities in the newspaper, and what was consistent through most of those was competitive wages and good or excellent benefits I saw on many of those advertisements. And what we're seeing in the state of Minnesota, and really throughout the country, but here in Minnesota, there are more job openings than there are people to fill those jobs. So what that tells me is economics is working, the market is working. If employers want to find employees that meet the needs for those job openings, that are qualified for those job openings, they're going to have to be competitive when it comes to wages and benefits. And it's very hard to go into any restaurant or store and not see a help wanted sign on the window or hiring now. So that tells me that, again, the market is working, and the competitive nature of filling those jobs is driving wages and benefits higher.
But the cost of doing business is different, say, in Pipestone or Warroad than it is here in the cities. Now, a few years ago when the issue of minimum wage was being debated, there was an argument against raising it statewide because of that issue, because the cost of doing business is different. So shouldn't minimum wage reflect the area that the jobs are in? If people in Minneapolis want their wage to be higher, shouldn't it be up to them?
Well, first I'll say minimum wage is just that. It's the minimum wage. There's nothing in this bill that's prohibiting the city of Minneapolis or the city of St. Paul from paying their employees whatever wage that they want. But when it comes to negotiating wages and benefits from private sector companies, to me, the best way to do that is between the relationship between employers and employees. You cannot get any more local than that relationship between employers and employees. And employees have different needs and wants, and they're a different benefit package. It's not just about wages and paid time off. There are health insurance benefits, dental benefits, retirement plans. So what I'd like to see is the negotiations continue between the employer and the employee, so the employee is getting their needs or wants met when it comes to those benefits. Some may want more vacation time, others may want better health insurance benefits. So for a government at any level to come in and tell a private company what they can or what they can't do, to me is concerning, because that is best negotiated between the employer and the employee.
First-class cities have been working on this issue for some time. They've been having debates and listening to their local businesses. What if they want to continue to shape their own policies? Part of the Republican platform has been local control, and so this is why is this an exception to local control trumps sort of a uniform control?
Well, again, taking away local control would be telling the city of Minneapolis that they can't pay their employees X amount of dollars. The city of Minneapolis, or any city or county throughout the state, can pay their employees whatever they want, whatever their budgets can afford. But local control, to me, is having a relationship between the employer and the employee. You cannot get any more local than that, and I don't think, again, government should be interfering with that relationship between the employer and the employee.
One last question. At yesterday's hearing, a retired labor law professor spoke. She called this an irregular use of a preemption statute and pointed out that the language is vague, or what she said was breathtakingly broad, and would possibly invite future litigation. Does the bill need an amendment, or are you confident that as it stands, it's in good shape?
Well, I'll tell you that I'm certainly not a legal expert. I don't have a background in law, but I will tell you that 22 other states have passed very similar legislation. So this isn't a first in the country. This isn't something that's out of the ordinary. So I don't know what specifically she was talking to. Again, I'm not an expert on the issue, but I will tell you that 22 other states, including many of our neighboring states, have very similar legislation that has already passed.
Senator Miller, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.